So let's jump right into Monster Hunter on Netflix. Monster Hunter is, I don't know if you need a synopsis of this, guys. It's about people that go and hunt monsters, but it's from the video game. Thus, you see the synergy here. Free Guy video game, Monster Hunter video game,
it's
top
all
three
planned.
video games. Here you go. Yeah, there you go. So let's go ahead and let's go with you, Jason. What did you think of Monster Hunter on Netflix?
The first character to die in this was the black guy who was only in the movie for literally 30 seconds and then has like the worst backstory ever. The animation is piss poor to say the least. I know kids who shouldn't have graduated from the Art Institute of Atlanta who could do way better. I'm and Jared's gonna get on me this. I think Monster Hunter is like Capcom's C tier property. So like the passion and stuff in this is not there because they don't give a shit. No one gives a shit about Monster Hunter. Like if you're talking about like other things that people give a shit about in Capcom's library, Monster Hunter is like at the bottom, honestly. Even though they had like 15 games, like only one of them has been like even remotely big in the United States, and that was Monster Hunter World. So it shows the amount of corporate care behind this with this movie. But with that said, it's better than the Paul Wes Anderson one with Mila Jovovich because that was fucking terrible. So this movie is it's god awful. Like even if you are a fan of the property, which I don't think you are because who is? I'm just saying that just to piss you off. It's definitely it's just not worth it. It's just nothing about this is good. The voice acting is okay, but it's like your typical sub artist voice actings. So it's like most of your anime voice acting, which is it's passable. So that's the best thing I can say about it is that the voice acting is somewhat passable.
Oh, Jaren, your thoughts on Monster Hunter on Netflix?
Monster Hunter on Netflix was trash. Like he said, the animation was bad. The story was, it was literally 2 beats. You're introduced to a village. It's in the path of a giant monster. And then it was like, everybody run. No, we're going to stay. Okay, I guess we're going to fight. That's it. That's the whole of it. That's all of it right there. Everything else is just added dialogue that is of no consequence to anything. Jason's wrong. I went ahead and looked it up about Monster Hunter. There are 23 games so far, and they have collectively sold over 73 million units total. And if you're clocking it at $50 per, that's a big deal. They've been around since PlayStation 2. Monster Hunter is a big franchise, a big tentpole franchise for Capcom. Probably one of their highest selling properties, period. So the series is great, but this was bad. It looked like student work. I'm all for younger animation studios kind of getting, sometimes they got to work the kinks out to get off the ground, but maybe don't use a worldwide franchise as your jumping off point. Maybe do something, like an original IP or something smaller. But this was trash all the way through.
What was crazy about this is like they're talking about how this big old dragon thing is like so big and so like it affects ecosystems, and if you're in the path of it, it's better for you to move. And then it's like when you see this creature, it's like it's not bigger than any other creatures y'all been fighting. Like in fact, it's not even big enough that you're like, oh yeah, if we get like 4 other dudes, we could probably take this motherfucker. None of this makes sense.
I don't really have much to say on this that you guys haven't already said. So I'd rather discuss Monster Hunter being a D-list property in the eyes of Jason versus Jaren, because I could give a shit about this movie. Real quick, I give it a 1. I hated it. Do you guys have any ratings you want to give this shit?
A 0.
I'll give it a 1.
I'm not even putting it on the list. It's not even worth rating.
Yeah,
there we go. So not even worth rating. I'll take that. All right, let's go to that D-list comedy. So as a whole, what makes a successful video game? How many units would you have to sell to be a successful video game? Typically,
it's not really about selling the units. It's about the cultural zeitgeist, and I don't think Monster Hunter is there yet. As opposed to other Capcom stuff like Street Fighter or Mega Man or Resident Evil, even like they're just not there yet. It's popular. I know it's very popular in Japan, just not here. Yeah. So like as I said, like yeah, they had 28 games or whatever, but only one of them has done any commercial success here, and that's the last one.
No,
or the last two.
Before we go, hold on, Jared. Hold on, Jared. Hold on. Right. If you were going to do this, as you say, you're ranking it at D. Give us examples of an A tier, B tier, and C tier Capcom for people like me who aren't into the gaming world, but we'll know the names, kind of, sort of.
Well, obviously, their A tier thing, the one that they put their most amount of time and effort behind, is Resident Evil. I mean, that's. I mean, like they're the only ones that they've pretty much promoted since PlayStation 1, Jared, not PlayStation 2. And then after that, Street Fighter, obviously. Okay. And then, I mean, even like something like that people don't really like see a lot of new games from, fucking Mega Man is even better than this shit. So like, and even though we don't see a lot of new games, Mega Man is a part of our cultural consciousness. Whereas name one character for Monster Hunter. You can't, because it's not about having characters.
You always generate a new character.
Exactly.
It's supposed to be you.
Okay.
Your hunters
so Jared,
name one monster for Monster Hunter.
You know what?
So let's say what category do you have it in Capcom's catalog? But then also, why is it in that number or tier for you in Capcom's catalog?
Okay, I will agree with Jason that yes, it is up until probably about 9 years ago, it was way more popular in Japan. Absolutely. The fact that every single Nintendo and Sony like console has had a Monster Hunter version that's been sold, like every one of them. Like it shows that that came to the West. Now, back in the day, you probably had to import them, but like there's been a Monster Hunter 3DS version. There's been a Monster Hunter Switch. There's been a Monster Hunter Wii U. There's been a Monster Hunter PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. So I mean, they are clearly somebody's buying them. They keep making them. So there's the fact that there's been more Monster Hunter versions of consoles than there has been of Resident Evil. There's been more Monster Hunter games than Resident Evil. They've sold more worldwide than Resident Evil. You make
who is the company putting their time and effort behind? Obviously, it's not Monster Hunter.
Yes, they're all Monster Hunters.
No, but they're making Monster Hunter games probably because it's easy for them to do, because there's not really a whole bunch of shit for them to do about it. It's just a dude out there fighting monsters. I mean, let's talk about the gameplay. Is you go and fight monsters to get progressively better stuff to go and fight more monsters.
It's adult Pokemon, yes. You kill monsters. Specifically, you hunt certain types of monsters, and then you craft either armor or weapons
to go fight more monsters
with the bits that you get from those monsters. That's right. Yes. But then you have stuff like Monster Hunter Stories, where they have these vast like worlds that are it's more of an RPG. It's more about a story. You still get to go out in a free world and a free open world and do stuff in it, but you have a narrative that you follow. In Monster Hunter World, it was more about a multiplayer thing. It was more about getting with your boys, getting jacked up on some good shit, and then going after the biggest, baddest thing in the area. So, I mean,
but by the amount of love which they were given through their IP versus, it's Resident Evil, and you can see it in the games. Like the last Resident Evil game, Resident Evil 7, is a masterpiece as compared to the last Monster Hunter game.
Resident Evil, the Village,
not the Village, the one before that, the one in their house, even the one in the Village with the big giant vampire lady is great.
Yeah. Crush me, mama.
Yeah. Like you can just tell that they have way more appreciation and love for that series rather than they do for Monster Hunter. It's
I don't know. Easy. I don't think so.
And then
graphically, they're both beautiful. But Monster Hunter, Monster Hunter is an open world where you can go wherever you want. In Resident Evil, you're stuck to a very, very thin path.
Well, we will help settle.
Yeah, that's called level design.
Yeah.
They actually hired another dude for Resident Evil. Then
you said that's another win for Resident Evil.
Yeah, because they had to hire another dude to do level design rather than someone just to paint fucking assets for a world.
You still have to do even if it's an open world. You don't think the Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild didn't have a master?
That's
level
a whole nother fucking different thing we're talking about. That's apples and oranges over here.
Well, no, we're talking about Monster Hunter Stories 2, the latest iteration. It's basically Breath of the Wild, but with like big bad Pokemon in it that you gotta kill and use their bits to make.
We will agree to disagree.
I mean, sales numbers, console exclusives, Monster Hunter blows Resident Evil out of the water. And
okay, well, let's. I wanted to, because we try to somewhat to be, I'm gonna say factual because that's a lie, but close to some kind of truth here.
Yeah.
So I did bring up Capcom's series, and this is because I know Jared's gonna ask. This is as of June 30th, 2021.
Okay.
So in case people be like, "Oh, well, that may be old."
Wait, what did I say in the first paragraph? It said something about Monster Hunter.
Monster Hunter is one of Capcom's many popular franchise since its 2004 debut. The series has grown to include 50 titles and a plethora of merchandise, firmly established as one of the premier franchises in all of video games.
Another popular is Resident Evil. Cool. Okay.
So let's see here. We're going to go on to Monster Hunter. Number of titles 50, unit sales 75. So I'm thinking that's going to be in the millions.
Million. Yeah.
Okay. And let's go. Oh, I forgot about Devil May Cry. Resident Evil.
146
titles, and that includes like merchandise and all that, and 117 million there. So Mega Man,
Street Fighter, 93. Titles, Mega Man. I mean, their unit sales are shit in most of those, but still. If we're going by number of fucking units of
one of those Mega Man 11 purchases,
then I was kind of right. But we were talking about unit sales. Yeah, there's a lot of people in fucking Japan.
Yeah, I guess
so. I guess we're both kind of right. All right, Darren, you want to take that?
Yeah, I'll take that. In my heart, it's A tier. In your heart, it could be D tier.
Well, I'm glad we finally got something settled in this show that everybody's right.
The first time
nothing really matters, according to Dan Harmon.
We're all going to die one day anyway, so let's just go watch TV.
Right.